Hello and welcome to the Pick 6 podcast in association with Sportsbyte and the University of Sunderland. My name's Stuart Dick and I'm joined by Jason Bunn, Ed Painter and Connor Bromley. I know they've got your name there, but that would be a good start to the podcast, wouldn't it? So how is everyone doing? Do you want to go through a few introductions? Because this is the first NFL podcast we're producing and we should have a little bit background on everyone. We'll start with Jason.
Alright, so I am Jason. I'm from Kent, so southeast, just a bit between London and France, basically, not the sea. I'm a Chicago Bears fan and have been since about 2012.
How unfortunate for you. We've got Ed Painter in the room as well.
Howdy. My name's Ed. I'm from Southend-on-Sea, so southeast Essex. I support the Patriots, but with a soft spot for the Raiders. I've been following it since the year that the Seattle Seahawks won the Super Bowl.
And I'm Stuart Dick. We'll be the main three on the podcast. We'll talk to Connor in a bit. Connor's here as well. He's the novice NFL person we've brought in because we think that'll be interesting and get your view on some of these things as well. But I'm Stuart Dick. I'm an Eagles fan, not just an Eagles fan from the last year where we won the Super Bowl. That might remind everyone of.
How many times is that going to come up in the next few weeks?
That's going to come up. That's going to come up every single week on this Pick 6 podcast. But I've been an Eagles fan since 2000, since Donovan McNabb broke his ankle in a game and played on and threw 4 touchdowns against the Arizona Cardinals. And I've been through the Chip Kelly era, so that means I've served a lot of time with the Eagles. And Connor Bromley is with us.
Yeah. I am a Falcons fan. However, unlike you, I have reason to support the Falcons because I used to live in Atlanta. Whereas you just pick teams out the air.
I watched the Eagles and
I'm just saying. Like out of all years, I'm the true fan. I saw the Falcons get beat off.
He's the true fan, but he had to think of who they were playing this weekend. That's how.
Yeah, that's true. No, I did know though. I got it right. They're playing the Bucks.
You did indeed. So we're going to go through the NFL week by week as we get through this season. We'll start a bit late. Week 6 we are into now, so that's as good a place as any to start our game reviews. And looking at my list, we've got Ed to go first, and he was keeping an eye on the New England Patriots, his team, versus the Kansas City Chiefs, who went into the game undefeated. So that was a slobber knocker, I think is the way to describe that one.
It was an absolute cracker. I mean, I'm speaking from a biased point of view. I'm sure I'd be a lot less enthused about it had the score been the other way. But I'm not sure how I was feeling ahead of the game. Obviously, Kansas City have started like a house on fire. It's been Patrick Mahomes is in the conversation for MVP as early as it is into the season. But considering the score was 40 to Kansas City, 43 New England, it's one of those ones where you can't help but stay up throughout the night to watch it. I mean, it started off slowly, quite rough for Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes throwing the pick to Dante Hightower on I think it was their second or their third drive. But as soon as once they got that incident out of the way, it seemed that it was running like a well-oiled machine. But still, New England, despite their defensive issues, it was just a matter of trying to outscore each other. It was one of those games where as soon as each quarterback had the ball, you felt like something was going to happen.
Eerily similar to the Super Bowl of last year, which the Eagles beat the Patriots 41-33. Yes, that's one in there. But I understand what you mean. It was an end-to-end game. It's like a basketball game, essentially. Yeah. It's just score.
No defense, really.
And is that worrying for you as a Patriots fan, that the defense is still struggling? Although, for me, the Patriots always start off the season 2-2, and then just go on a run where they win the number 1 seed, and then they go throughout the playoffs, get the Super Bowl, and there you go. Actually, Tom Brady gets the Super Bowl more percentage-wise than Tim Tebow throws a completion with one of his passes. I figured that out the other
Wasn't it a point from I think from a certain point in time, maybe like mid-2000s, that anyone who gets drafted by the New England Patriots doesn't know what their football is like without the playoffs? They've just automatically gone into the team and they've qualified for the playoffs.
That must be a good life as a fan, that.
Yes. With a Bears fan in the corner now.
It still hurts.
But the game itself, I watched the highlights. Tyreek Hill caused you all kinds of problems with and all kinds of fantasy problems for me because I was playing him in one of my leagues as I had Travis Kelce, and he didn't do much at all. But Kansas City, we'll look at them as well because they started the season 5-0, obviously 5-1 now. Just look at that, the ensemble that Patrick Mahomes has, and Andy Reid, who we know is a coach who can get you to the playoffs, and his time management, and when he gets to the playoffs, he just seems to struggle. But he's got an offensive unit there, an offensive unit with so much firepower at so many positions.
Oh yeah, that's it. I mean, on the one hand, it's troubling for any team if they were to concede 40 points, but at the same time, when you look at the kind of weapons that Kansas City have, you kind of have to take a step back and say, okay, it's probably one of the more sort of deep offences in the league. It's one of those games where I think even beforehand, New England and Belichick and McDaniels are thinking we're going to have to outscore them to beat them. There's no way we can shut them down. We did a decent job in the first half, but second half, Tyreek Hill and Kareem Hunt got rolling, and when they get rolling, you can't stop them really. It's one of those things.
Yeah, they come at you with so many different angles. Travis Kelce's probably a top 3 tight end in the league as well, and he hasn't really been targeted this year by Mahomes because Hill's been so open on certain. Like, it's not just like the go routes with his pace. He's got very good route running abilities, and he's useful out of the backfield as well. And he's just caused all sorts of problems. Kind of like the problems the Patriots created when they had the likes of Dion Lewis and James White in the backfield. He's that type of player, although they were running backs and he's a wide receiver.
Yeah.
He can go in the bracket of being a gadget receiver, but he's that good. I'd put him as a Deshaun Jackson when he was in his prime type of player.
I think so. I think just a note on the tight end point of view with you mentioned Kelce. I think both tight ends were shut down. New England's famous for whatever one team does best, they take that away from you. So they clearly wanted to take away the tight end element, but then Kansas City did that as well, and Gronkowski had a reasonably quiet game by his standards. And it was one of those things where, on a receiving point of view, New England didn't. I think there was just one receiving touchdown the whole game. There was a lot of it was like Sony Michel, and Tom Brady obviously scored a touchdown for himself rushing, and it was I think both teams wanted to take away each other's best element, and they seemed to do that, which then opened up the field for some Tyreek Hill and Kareem Hunt don't need people to open things up for them. They're those kind of players that can create their own havoc and have their way with the defense as and when they want to. But I think the fact that both defenses were concentrating on each other's tight ends enabled other offensive weapons to have a greater say of the game.
There we go. That's a bit of a roundup of the Patriots-Chiefs game, and you look at the Patriots now, they're 4-2, top of the division. It's an eerily familiar feeling for the AFC East as we now switch attention to the NFC South and the Falcons versus the Buccaneers. We've got a Falcons fan right here, but he's not going to talk about it straight away. We'll bring in a bit as Jason, you kept an eye on that one.
Yep, so basically this was the story of Jameis Winston coming back into the league for the first time this season for Tampa Bay. He came in after a couple of good weeks from Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Fitzmagic, as they put in hyphens around his name.
Other than, of course, week 2 against the Bears. Thank you very much.
Yeah, there we go. Shut him down. Shut him down.
So Winston came in. All right, going to set the league alight again this season. Nope, threw 2 picks, made 2 fumbles, quarterback QB rating of 115, and the Bucs fell to the Falcons 29-34. Matt Ryan, of course, coming back in, professional as ever, no interceptions, 354 yards, as good as you can possibly get from him. The Falcons had a very, very good start to the game, 21-6. They were leading at one point. Then Bucs came back into it, but it wasn't enough as Falcons came all the way through to finish throughout Saturday afternoon.
They did indeed, and the Falcons are one of those teams, since their Super Bowl defeat to the Patriots 2 seasons ago, they just haven't been able...
Crushing blow.
The crushing blow of coming from behind.
What's the game?
It was a 27-3 deficit, wasn't it? 28-3 in the fourth. And they just came back and stormed that one. And since then, they made the playoffs last year. Got beat by the Eagles in Nick Foles' glorious game where he was dreadful. And then he became glorious after that. But we only just squeaked past him. Julio Jones dropping the ball not dropping the ball, went over his head in the end zone. He went up for it, couldn't quite make it. But the Falcons, they're one of these teams who will be in and around it 9-7, 10-6, 8-8. They'll be one of those three. But defensively and offensively, they sometimes struggle. Like against teams who have got a good defense, they tend to struggle, and that's not on Matt Ryan. There's so many weapons they have now. Obviously, they've lost Devontae Freeman this week as well, which we'll talk
to IR,
which we'll talk about later on. But what do you think? Do you think the Falcons are a playoff contender on what you saw at the weekend?
I think, again, like you said, it's the same as they are every season. They're always in and around that area, but it's tough to know until we are, say, halfway through the season to really know what they're capable of. But now with Devonta Freeman out among a number of other players throughout the league, it's going to be so tough for them to really push on, especially with the lack of defence that they've potentially got. Because over the years, they've had that wide receiver core, which has really been able to push them forward. But it's just, in all honesty, I can't see it being the same this season. But in order to, again, the NFC South, or AFC South, sorry, it's such a tight league, and it has been for the last few years, that I can't see anyone else who would be able to. I think the Falcons, to be honest, are the best of a bad bunch.
Yeah, it's a very competitive division. You look at Tampa Bay, who defensively they've got some stars on defense. They've got Gerald McCoy in the front four who causes problems, but offensively you just can't trust Jameis Winston, or you can't trust Ryan Fitzpatrick to go on the spell he had at the start of the season throughout. You look at the weapons. Mike Evans is a phenomenal wide receiver, but after that, Deshaun Jackson, he's coming of age now. He's a bit older. He's not the threat he once was. And for me, Tampa Bay, they're going to struggle again this year. I think they'll be the bottom of that division, because you've got the New Orleans Saints, who are good on offense. They've got Alvin Kamara, Drew Brees, obviously, who's recently got the most yards. 70,000 yards he's gone over now. He's the record holder in yards in his NFL career, and they've got a lot of talent. There is a lot of offensive talent in the NFC South, but there is not much defense.
That's the thing, and I think that's the reason why they've not been able to be successful in the last 5-6 years in the playoffs. They've just not got that group of players on defense which can really help them to push on and win games. Like, as a Bears fan, for me it's defense wins championships. And it's one of those things where if you haven't got that, you're not going to get anywhere near the Super Bowl. And if you do, like we saw against the Patriots a few years back, you're not going to win it. There's no chance.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it was an anomaly last year's Super Bowl, because the Eagles did have a good defense, especially against the run. They were number one against the run, and they have been for much of this year, apart from Saquon Barkley just ran all over them and passed all over them last weekend. But you do have to. It doesn't have to be an overall good defense. If you can stop one thing, I think that makes you a playoff contender and a Super Bowl contender. Obviously, in the AFC, it's difficult because you've got the Patriots and it's anyone else. So you can make the playoffs, but you've still got to get past the Patriots. In the NFC, it's a wide open race. And we'll bring in Connor Bromley, the fan of the Atlanta Falcons. And would you say we've described accurately the Falcons? They're good on offense. They've got weapons. They've got the new Calvin Ridley. They've got Julio Jones. They've got Matt Ryan. Obviously, Freeman's injured. Coleman's still in the backfield. So they've got the talent there. Austin Hooper at tight end, and Mohamed Sanu as well. But defensively, it's always been the bit that lets the Falcons down.
I think sometimes when I watch the Falcons games, they're the only team that I get a test of watching regularly. I sometimes find while Matt Ryan's good, he's safe. He's a safe passer. He doesn't really like to, make an outrageous play. He's not that kind of player.
He's not an Aaron Rodgers, Carson Wentz type.
And I think sometimes that's what hinders them. I think, look back at that Super Bowl game a few years ago. The reason why the Falcons lost that was almost because he was too perfect in a lot of senses, and they got overran because he wasn't managing the game correctly. Even though they were putting points on the board, his defense was absolutely knackered because they were just out on the field all the time. And sometimes when I watch Matt Ryan, I appreciate how good he is at protecting the ball. He's probably one of the best at doing that, but he's a safe player. I think sometimes you need to have risks. Yeah. Very much it's basically can I see Julio Jones? No. Can I see Mohamed Sanu? No. Right, okay, and then that's it. There's no real secondary plan. And then when they've lost Devontae Freeman, that really there is no plan B now. So I do worry. I think going into the year, I think they were probably one of the favourites to go for the Super Bowl, but I think they probably dropped out the top 10 sort of.
I think injuries on defence as well. At the start of the year, they lost 2 or 3 players on the back end of their defence. Yeah, they lost them all.
They've had a difficult start of the year as well.
Lost all of them in the Eagles game week 1. Just saw 2 or 3 go down injured. As I say, I think the NFC South defensively is why we probably won't see a Super Bowl winner from that division. I don't know whether you all agree with me on that.
I think that's fair enough.
I completely agree, yeah.
There we go. So we'll go on to my game, and it's one you'll be interested in, Jason.
One I'd much rather not hear about, but
would not rather Miami Dolphins versus the Chicago Bears. It was a thrilling match. We started off with Ryan Tannehill news that he was going to be injured. So what did I do? I went, I'm putting everything I own on the Chicago Bears to win that one. And Ryan Tannehill comes in, throws for 380 yards, 3 touchdowns. Can anyone explain that in this world?
Seeing the Bears' defence over the last 5 years, yes. Yeah. But it's just because after we had a bye week last week and coming into it this week, I was thinking, we can really push on they've pushed on this week, big win against Tampa Bay, then come up against another Florida team and just really hope that we can push on now they haven't got any more buys for the season and just get a run going. But it's just ruined it, I think.
Yeah, for me, Chicago's still in the infancy of building a team.
Yeah.
So like they've got Mitchell Trubisky in. He's not, for me, a Carson Wentz, Jared Goff, where you can plug in and play straight away. He is playing, he's getting experience, but he's not going to be perfect straight away. Whereas Carson Wentz took a season, Jared Goff took a season to get really accustomed to the league, and I think Trubisky's still in that early stages of developing and picking up the speed of the game. And looking at the game as well, defensively, Chicago have been good this year with Khalil Mack obviously coming from the Raiders, but they let 11-point lead slip in the third quarter, and it was when Trubisky was going in to score again. He threw an interception in the end zone that kind of turned the tide and ended 28-all.
So I thought those interceptions had finished with Jay Cutler, but once we let him go,
Never.
but
no, he's taught his protege well. And then in overtime, you must have thought it was over earlier than it actually was when Kenyon Drake fumbled the ball inside the 1 yard line going into the end zone. He dropped the ball and the Bears recovered in the end zone for a touchback, so got that breathing space to get out, and then they moved all the way down the field. I think for me they were too conservative when they were in that they were happy to kick a field goal, but they left it as a 53-yard field goal for Cody Parkey, who's got the leg, but he's had accuracy problems in the past, and there was a chance for me. They just kind of went, right, we're just going to run it the next three plays and just get as little yardage as we can. They needed another chunk player to get it within 40 yards to make that field goal easier.
that's the thing. I think with me, I see plays as a lot of time. It's about momentum, and I'm probably going to mention it a lot in this podcast as well as the ones in the coming weeks. But the second that you just while you're making quick 3-4 yard gains, you're not really gaining anything. What you need is a big throw downfield, get the crowd going, and even if there is a flag thrown, there's still that crowd that's really, really pushing for you, or silence if it's an away game. But it just didn't come, and that's one of the things that's been plaguing the Bears for too long now. I think it's just that there's just not that willingness to take risks that you might see on the Patriots, on the Seahawks back 5 years ago. There's nothing there which really makes me think, yeah, we've got something. We've got a Super Bowl contender here. Yeah.
Just a point on that. At the in the Patriots game, when the scores were tied 40 apiece, Tom Brady had the ball maybe on his 15-yard line, 20-yard line, something like that.
Scenario.
And he just normally you try and run it once or twice, maybe see if you can get you've seen maybe make a couple of yard gain or something like that. Be a bit conservative, as we've all been saying. Got the full first down, just pinged it about 3/4 of the length of the field to Gronkowski. Got Gronkowski into perfect field goal range, and that's the kind of big play you need to sort of silence the crowd to sort of demoralise the opposition team.
See the Bears over the last say 3-4 years, they've got rid of Alshon Jeffrey, Brandon Marshall, so those big receivers aren't there anymore. So it's tough for any quarterback in that situation to really chuck one down the field and try and get that big gain without the receiver getting like a 5-10 yards release on his defensive back. So I think it's more. It's not necessarily the GM's fault, but it's a problem that I think is going to keep going until we find a big receiver again, because Marshall and Jeffrey were loved by Bears fans, and they still are to an extent.
Well, I can tell you, Alshon Jeffrey, the Eagles fans love him because he, as you say, he's one of those receivers that even if he's covered, you can throw it up to him in a one-on-one coverage situation, and he'll go get the ball 75% of the time. And that can introduce the big play. And he was big in the Super Bowl. He was big last week against the New York Giants. And for me, you just lack the offensive weapons around Trubisky that say Jared Goff has. I'm comparing him to Jared Goff and Carson Wentz because they're obviously second, third year quarterbacks. Obviously, he came out a year later. But you look at the way the GMs of those teams have put talent around him. You look at Jared Goff's talent, Cooper Kupp. He's got so much talent. He's they brought in the receiver from the Patriots. I forget his name.
Brandon Cooks.
Cooks. That's the one. It was on the top of my head. And he's got so much talent on to throw to there. And he's got Todd Gurley in the backfield. I like Jordan Howard as a running back and Tariq Cohen for the Bears, but there's not those receivers just quite yet where you think Trubisky's got the weapons that he needs to make that offense potent.
You talk about the running game, and last season, Howard was really he was in his element last year. Because Trubisky, first-year quarterback, they didn't really give him as many risks as they potentially could have done. So it was Howard getting the majority of those runs, and it was so good to see him being able to punch through in kind of like a Matt Forte style, who we've missed now for the last couple of years, obviously. And it was just good to see a Bears running game again, but you need to have that backed up with something. And Trubisky, now that in his second year, he needs to be able to step up, I think. And really show what it's capable of.
It's a difficult one for me because I understand that, but I just can't see the receiving weapons there. Like Tariq Cohen's your best receiving option for me.
Yeah,
and
also all of our receivers are very one-dimensional. They're small, they're quick, they're all pretty much all slot receivers. So it's tough to really, again, like I said about Brandon Marshall or Sean Jeffrey. There's no real option. There's no what's the word? There's no
option to like
there's no big option
big option to go like even a tight end, say there's no real big option to just throw it up and then come down in one-on-one. Going back to the game, we kind of got sidetracked there with the Bears. The Miami Dolphins picked up the victory thanks to a Jason Sanders 47-yard field goal in overtime after Cody Parkey missed a 53-yarder, and that was that in that game. Connor hasn't done a game because he's the novice of the group. And
no, that's true. I mean, I did debate this morning, trying to lie my way through the situation, but I decided against it. I mean, I think my role on this podcast is essentially to be the one that you pick fun at and to say something stupid.
Well, if that's the way you want to go, I think that's a good
so
route.
far, I think I've avoided saying anything stupid. I don't know. I mean, you tell me. Have I said anything stupid yet?
Not quite yet.
No,
there's still time. We've still got a while left in this podcast. Shall we go through some of the other results starting on Thursday night? My Philadelphia Eagles won 34-13 against the New York Giants. Saquon Barkley, though, for the Giants, who looks like a huge talent and could be one of the best runners in the game going forward. He got 229 scrimmage yards in that one. So
is that the game where David Beckham's son left early or something?
Yes.
Or kicked off.
There's the stupid comments.
I did that one on purpose.
Yeah, Odell Beckham Jr. did leave at halftime because he needed an IV apparently, but I think it was more because he is how would I describe him without
stroppy?
Temperamental.
Stroppy. I was gonna.
The funny thing with him is the reason why I said that is when me and my girlfriend went to see the New York Giants a few years ago, she did think that it was Beckham's son. I was like, no, like the different ethnicity, man. I mean,
there you go. So if you ever wanted to know, the New York Giants don't have a player who is David Beckham's son.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
There you go. Pittsburgh Steelers versus Cincinnati Bengals was another fantastic game. It came down the wire. A touchdown for Antonio Brown from Ben Roethlisberger gave them a winning touchdown with just seconds on the clock. And it just seems to me another team like the Atlanta Falcons, Cincinnati Bengals. Similar as in they'll be there or thereabouts, but you can't see them going deep in the playoffs.
And even if they did get into the playoffs, you expect them to lose at the first time.
Yes, it is the Bengals.
Some unnatural written law that the Bengals can't win in the playoffs.
Mostly from the Marvin Lewis era.
Yes.
It was always, they got the first round of the playoffs, so there's Andy Dalton. He's thrown an interception in the playoffs. But there you go. Speaking of teams from Ohio, that's a very tenuous link from Cincinnati to Cleveland. They got absolutely destroyed by the LA Chargers, and 3 touchdowns for Melvin Gordon.
I think you can't be nasty about the Browns. They've been like the worst team ever for the last 5 years.
They've got
like, at least now they're okay.
So much neutral support. Everyone, go on, let them have a couple.
I do like Baker Mayfield, to be fair. They have won as many games this year as they have double the games they have won over the last 2 seasons. So
I have been very impressed with them this season, to be fair.
They are good.
They've had. I know it's only been spells of fantasticness, but it's coming, I think, and it's not there yet. But give it another 3 or 4 years. I know it's the Browns.
I think we've said that for the last 3 or 4 years on the Browns, because defensively they've got some talent. Myles Garrett, who they drafted in the first round, Jabril Peppers, who hasn't quite really hit the fame in the secondary for the Browns as of yet. Then they did bring in a Eagles linebacker who's now being done for insider trading. Michael Kendricks.
Oh, correct.
And then he got dropped, and then he went to the Seattle Seahawks. So I don't think he's allowed to play at the moment. But I agree, they've got a bit of talent on defense. Offensively, they do have some decent, but for me, it's again they have decent players, but they don't have anyone who wows you. They had Josh Gordon. If he,
that's the thing, because I was going to say they were struggling at receiver on Sunday, and it's almost though they do need some sort of Josh Gordon.
I think Josh Gordon ran out his welcome for the several things he did off the field that saw him suspended more than he was available to play, pretty much. And a change of scenery, I think, did them good, and I think he's going to be a good signing for the Patriots, who picked up because if it was talent wise, Josh Gordon would be a number one receiver, a top 5, top 7 receiver in the league, but it's not all on talent, unfortunately.
Because you saw it with Martellus Bennett when he first ended up in New England as well at tight end, and he was fantastic for them.
It just seems the Patriots know how to get the best. Well, Bill Belichick knows how to get the best out of players. I've got a sneaky suspicion that as soon as Brady retires, Belichick will go, I'm going to retire as well. I think they're a dual package.
I think that's it. I think Brady will retire, then Belichick will retire, then Gronkowski said he doesn't want to catch passes from anyone else but Brady, so I think Gronkowski will retire. And I think it'll be a complete change.
Go back to the Patriots in the mid-90s.
Yes. And the Patriots are now the Browns.
Yep.
There you go.
Picking number 1.
Elsewhere, Buffalo Bills and Houston Texans. Texans won by a touchdown, 20-13. Nothing memorable in that one. Deshaun Watson still coming back from his ACL injury, similar to Carson Wentz's ACL injury. He hasn't quite hit the heights of his rookie year yet this season.
No, it's... I think he's, as you said, it's warming back into. I think the first game of the season, when it was the Patriots against the Texans, people were thinking, well, everyone saw what the Texans did last season, and it was just a pretty good catch by Brandon Cooks to win it for the Patriots. But I mean, I think watching that game at the start of the season, it was very much he looks rusty. He looks he hasn't had he looks like he really needs maybe 3-4 games to warm himself back into it and to become the quarterback that we all recognise him as being.
Yeah, definitely is. Arizona Cardinals, they lost again. They're 1-5. No surprise, really, with the talent they've got on the board against the Minnesota Vikings. 3-2-1, and another 100-yard game. The 6th consecutive to start the season for Adam Thielen, who I believe was a undrafted free agent coming into the league, and now him and Stephon Diggs are possibly the best pair of receivers, 1 and 2, in the league.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Because I mean, being a Bears fan again, I've had the misfortune of having to play against the Vikings for every year. And they just seem to not show anything as a squad, but they've always got 1 or 2 players who you really, really have to worry about.
Yeah, and Dalvin Cook, I thought this year was going to have a big year. He came back. He's another rookie who's come back from a knee injury, but he's been injured for most of this year. And that's why I think if the Vikings had him, they'd be 4-2, 5-1. And if they had a solid running game, then they're having to rely on the 2 wide receivers. And Kirk Cousins obviously brought over from the Washington Redskins. He's done a job. I'm still not sold on Kirk Cousins
I can't get my head around
as a top tier quarterback. I wouldn't even say top tier. I'd say I'd have a top tier where you've got Brady, Rodgers. That's probably it in the top tier. Then you've got a high level tier of, say, Carson Wentz. I think Philip Rivers is still in that kind of tier.
I'd say Matt Ryan's in there as well.
Matt Ryan, yeah. I always find I think he's borderline between that and the next one down, just because of his. Obviously, no one's opinion's right, but just from me, I don't think he's reached the heights that the others have in there. I think Jared Goff's making his way up. He's kind of similar to Matt Ryan as well, but I think he's helped a lot by the talent around him. So we'll go on to some other scores. Carolina Panthers lost to the Washington Redskins, both teams at 3-2, and Redskins top of the division, not one you would have seen. I think before the season a lot of people thought the Giants and the Eagles would go at it, but it's the Redskins who are at the top.
Giants don't look good.
The Giants do not look good.
It's Peyton Manning not finished.
It makes...
There's the idiot thing. Yeah.
I got my Manning's mixed up.
Peyton Manning's done, and Eli Manning...
Yeah, pretty much done as well.
It's done. So, yeah.
It makes Ben McAdoo's decision last season, or season before, to drop Eli Manning... It makes it look a little bit more. Maybe he was onto something.
Geno Atkins they put in instead, wasn't it?
Geno Smith, no?
Geno Smith, yeah. Geno Atkins is the Bengals
defensive tackle.
Well, if they're putting him in a quarterback, that's when you know
I would
their
love
situations.
to see that.
To be fair, the way Eli's playing, I'd have Geno Atkins as quarterback over him. LA Rams have gone to 6-0 with a 23-20 win over the Denver Broncos. It was freezing cold up there. It was the second coldest October game in NFL history. Jared Goff couldn't really get used to it with his southwestern roots and all the heat, and he didn't really have the best of games. Todd Gurley had career rushing high, though.
Are they the only perfect team?
They are the only perfect team.
Will they remain perfect?
No.
What, throughout the season?
It's happened before. And New England did it a few years ago, didn't they?
Yeah, and then they lost.
They lost in the
Super Bowl to the Giants.
Yeah.
So I reckon they've got something behind them. They can really get somewhere. I reckon they can get deep into the playoffs. But
their offensive talent and defensive talent is unrivaled. You saw the pickups they were making this year, and Ndamukong Suh alongside Aaron Donald. They picked up Marcus Peters in the secondary, Aqib Talib in the secondary. That is a stacked team, and it's kind of what the Eagles did last year. They've got a rookie quarterback on a rookie contract, and they're surrounding him with expensive talent before they have to pay the quarterback.
Yep.
So for me, that window is two more years, because this is his third year. 2 more years, because they'll obviously take the 5th-year extension on him, as will the Eagles. So both teams have kind of 2 years to keep going to the playoffs and keep going to the Super Bowl.
With those signings they've made, they've really got to be winning themselves a Super Bowl,
yes,
if not 2.
They have to, this year or next year. They have to win a Super Bowl in my eyes.
Because they've got a couple of players who are aging. You've got Aqib Talib he's really getting up there, isn't he?
He is, but I think they've got enough depth as well. It's not just the talent. The talent they've brought in on top of the depth they already had for a team that made the playoffs last year is incredible. And they've seen what the Eagles have done in their front office and gone, let's get as much depth as we can. Because we look at the Eagles last year, I know I'm bringing them up again, but the depth they had, they lost Jason Peters, they lost Carson Wentz, they lost Darren Sproles, they lost Jordan Hicks, they lost some star players on special teams as well, and they just replaced them. They just put someone else in there, and they still kept going, and that's the depth that you need to win a Super Bowl, especially in the NFC at the moment, because the talent across the board in the NFC, for me, is better than the AFC.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Some other scores: Jacksonville Jaguars. Who showed them turn up against the Dallas Cowboys? Both are 3-3, but Dallas won 40-7, and they made Dak Prescott look like an actual human quarterback. There will be a lot of Cowboys hate on this podcast from me. I'm not going to bias it. I don't like the Cowboys.
Why?
Because they're rivals of the Eagles.
Oh, fair play.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
So it's basically the Newcastle Sunderland situation.
Well, not really, because obviously
Dallas
that's
is a bit much.
Texas,
They?
on there.
No.
Philadelphia's in Pennsylvania.
Trust me, I hate the Dallas Cowboys
they're
more
not
than I
gonna-
hate Sunderland.
Yeah, but you're not gonna bump into
Maybe
it.
because we're in the same league. That's probably why.
Yeah. Oh well. Okay.
There we
Football
go.
in.
I threw that in. Baltimore Ravens 21, Tennessee Titans zip.
Dear, oh dear.
Dear oh dear. 11 sacks for the Baltimore Ravens. Do you know what a sack is?
Yes, I know what a sack is.
There we go.
I'm not that much of a novice.
I hope Tennessee's offensive line is embarrassed by that, because that's
That
not
is
good
embarrassing.
at all.
although I had Baltimore's defense on fantasy, so
That's the thing.
I'll take that.
Historically, Baltimore have always been a very defensive team, and they've
Yeah, they
always
have.
had that strength.
Yeah, since
Strength,
the Ray Lewis days, they've kind of kept that strength. But again, they've got a similar type of quarterback to Eli Manning. When he's good and goes on a run, Joe Flacco can win your games, can throw downfield, hits the throws, but it's so rare, and it's becoming rarer.
I think it's an obvious statement, but when he won the Super Bowl, he was there in his peak year.
Yeah.
From there, it was always going to go downhill.
Yeah.
Well, the injuries are starting to stack up.
Yeah.
And not this season, obviously, but
Yeah.
every other season he seems to pick up an injury that ends his season.
And on Monday Night Football, Aaron Rodgers did a miracle again, as he tends to
shock
do.
horror.
San Francisco 49ers 30, Green Bay Packers 33. So that is your results roundup. We're half an hour into the show already, and we were aiming at 45 minutes, so we'll crack on with some talking points. And we did mention the LA Rams, the perfect team. That was one of my talking points. Well done, Connor.
Yeah.
Just looking at the talent they have, are they the Super Bowl favourites?
I just want to preface this by saying that I absolutely hate where they play. The ground is always
What, the
doesn't
Coliseum?
look full.
The
Yeah.
Coliseum.
It just looks like a really horrible place to enjoy an afternoon with that hot LA sun beaming on your balding head. Not for me.
It's essentially a college stadium, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not NFL ready, if you like.
Yeah, but don't the Chargers play at
Chargers
StubHub?
play
Yeah, they
the
play
Stubhub.
They play
it's
at 20
MLS
20
stadium, yeah.
27,000 seater stadium, and
Wow.
still, like, the away team brings so many fans to that stadium that it looks like a home game for the away team. There's they've tried for years to get a team back to LA, and it just hasn't worked. And you can see it again, even though the Rams are so successful.
It's not off the pitch, is it?
They can't fill the stadium.
The stadium is ridiculously big, though.
It is ridiculously big, but if you're 6-0 in the NFL, if you're on the East Coast in a big major city, you are filling that stadium.
Is it not, though, because you struggle to just randomly start to support a team? It's like the people in LA, I know the Rams have been there before, but people in LA, if they're like our age, they will have picked another team.
Yeah, that's interesting. Kind of the London scenario for me. Would any of you pick a London franchise over the team you support now?
Oh, of course not. No,
exactly.
No. Yeah, so that's the thing, isn't it?
That could be a thing with LA. Obviously, there are deep roots in LA for the Rams, less so for the Chargers. And then, of course, we've got Oakland moving to Las Vegas in the next couple of years.
Yeah. Because I always thought that it would be the Raiders who would be one of the first teams to go back to LA.
Yeah, LA. Yeah, it would make sense. I think there was applications for a few teams to go to LA, but then
three.
They were the third team, and instead they're going to Las Vegas. So that'll be an interesting one. How that one overcomes the last years. But Rams, in terms of talent-wise and Super Bowl contenders, they are the team that's just got so much talent both sides of the ball for me, and I'd pencil them in as at least reaching the NFC Championship game.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, yeah. There's always that one team every season that you look at it, you think, my God, who's going to beat them?
Yeah.
It was like the Seattle Seahawks before, and obviously this year now it's the Rams.
Yeah, and this week they get to play a really tough game against the 49ers, who don't have their starting quarterback, who are 1-5. So they're likely to go 7-0. For me, it's a difficult one to look round in the NFC. If you're looking at the AFC, who do you think the contenders are? Obviously, the Patriots are just penciled in that graphic. So also, we'll go back to the NFC in a minute, but AFC, who are your playoff Super Bowl contenders from the AFC?
I'll tell you what. Looking at the game this weekend, I'd love to have another Kansas City, New England.
Oh yeah.
That would be for me, because it's happened historically in the last few years, and I can see it happening again. I really can.
I think the Kansas City Chiefs have sort of leapfrogged where the Pittsburgh Steelers were always the second. Yeah. Well, in more recent times, at least anyway, there was the second team in the AFC. But I think Kansas City have leapfrogged them, especially with the dysfunction within the Steelers locker room. I think it's New England are always the generic favourites because it's New England, because it's Tom Brady, because it's Belichick. But I think Kansas City are superb.
Yeah, the only thing that worries me about the Chiefs is just Andy Reid, the head coach. Just from experience with the Eagles, it's going in a very similar way that he gets really good teams. He's a good coach. He gets his teams playing well, but then his decisions will cost them 1, perhaps 2 games a year.
It's just an issue of not being able to get them over the line.
Yeah, and when he gets to the playoffs, it was similar to Marty Schottenheimer as well, back in the days with the San Diego Chargers when Drew Brees was there. It was kind of, they would win enough. I think the San Diego Chargers went 15-1 one season, and then they went out in the first or second round of the playoffs. And Andy Reid's just got that feeling for me. Until he wins a Super Bowl, he's going to have this stigma of being a good coach, but he can't get them over the line. Looking elsewhere, Chargers are going unnoticed, 4-2. They've got the Titans this weekend, and Phillip Rivers, I think for me, is an underrated. He goes through seasons where he's an overrated quarterback, and then he goes through seasons where he's underrated. So there's some seasons where he'll throw 30 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, and look like a world beat, but won't get the recognition. Then the next year, everyone will go, "Oh, it's Phillip Rivers' year," and then he'll throw 25 touchdowns and 20 interceptions. He's that type of quarterback who just goes through fits and spells, but I think the talent's there. Of course, he's got some talent around him as well, with obviously Melvin Gordon in the backfield. Antonio Gates is still going as a tight end there, so they're the ones to watch. And again, the Bengals are 4-2. I can't see them being a contender, but I'm just looking at all the records here, and there's a lot of 3-3s, 2-4s, 4-2. So that just shows you the parity in the NFL.
Yeah, absolutely.
Going back to the NFC. Oh well, unless you were going to elaborate on that.
Sorry,
We'll go back to the NFC. Obviously, the Rams at the top. Who else have we got in the NFC?
I can't see an NFC North team getting anywhere near this year. I think the Packers just haven't got what they had in the past.
They don't have a defense.
Yeah,
it's such a shame for Aaron Rodgers because they're wasting the prime years of his career, considering how good he is.
Definitely.
I hate to admit it, but definitely, his Hall of Fame bound. 100%.
Oh yeah, there's no denying that. So, yeah, I agree. NFC North, NFC South is so competitive. I can't, but maybe the Saints.
I mean, potentially.
They've got because they've got so much firepower. Again, I'm talking about offense, and you said earlier defense wins championship, but the offense, they've got Drew Brees, who's phenomenal. They've got Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram's just come back from suspension. They've got Michael Thomas. They've got quite a few receiving threats. Defensively, they've still got a team with the rookie last year, Marshawn Lattimore. They've got some talent back there, but they've just been cut apart this year. And Vikings, I can't see them. I just don't trust Kirk Cousins.
No.
And then their defense taking a step back, in my opinion, so far this year. But for me, it's Rams versus Patriots or Rams versus Chiefs is the most likely Super Bowl at the moment.
I'm with you on that. There's no other standout teams, I don't think, at the moment.
There we go. That is the talking points done. Well, I've got some more, but we're running short of time. Sure, I'll do one more actually. Vontez Burfict has again targeted a person on the field. He did a horrific challenge on Antonio Brown, then said to Ben Roethlisberger told reporters that he told that he was going to go after Juju Schuster-Smith as well. And this is a guy, a linebacker for the Bengals, who's been fined, he's been suspended so many times for late hits, and he does it on purpose. It's targeting, essentially.
Oh, it's reached the point where it's basically just his style of play, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, you don't expect anything else.
It's not really a style of play. It's illegal. It's like, for me, the Saints a few years ago had under Greg Williams, who's now the Browns defensive coordinator, they had targeting gate where they got coaches got suspended, players got fined, suspended because they actively in the locker room said, right, we're going to put a bounty on this guy's head in the game. And Burfict is just the walking embodiment of, in his own head, he's gone, right, I want to hit him hard, I don't get how, I'm hitting them. And something's got to be done about him.
What's he going to have to do before he just gets booted out?
It's not like fines are working.
No,
like
he's getting
suspensions are working. There's nothing that's...
he's stamped on people's hands before. He's done all sorts of things, and he's still allowed to play.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my other talk. Has anyone got any other points they would like to bring up in this section?
I was thinking bringing up Joey Bosa. I know it's not necessarily NFL news yet, but him coming out of Ohio State.
Yeah. But before the end of the season as well, he's just said, right, I'm preparing for the draft. And I think that's something we'll see more just because of the amount of money that's in the NFL for high quality talent.
Players can't risk injuries in there,
they
especially
can't.
in bowl season.
I've seen people not playing their bowl games for it, but to go halfway through a season. That is unheard of for someone to leave halfway through a season and go, right, I'm going to prepare for the NFL draft. I'm looking after me. A lot of people love their alumni, love their colleges, and would have done anything at their college. I mean, college football is arguably in the States bigger than the NFL.
Oh, easily, yeah.
Because the amount of people that get in, the amount of alumni who come watch those games, it's such a huge thing, and they're not getting paid a penny. The students, essentially student athletes, they're not getting paid a penny. That's
the thing. Do you think that his situation would be different if the NCAA stuck up for the players that are playing in their leagues?
Oh, definitely. If they had some kind of remuneration package for people for players, then people would stick it out. But you can't risk that. It'd be like me playing college soccer. I'm going to call it soccer on the podcast.
Poor.
playing university soccer over here, and I had a contract with Newcastle United in the wings, and I would I wouldn't play football for the University of Sunderland when I know there's a contract coming up from someone in Newcastle, because if I get injured, break my leg,
in all fairness,
going to turn away. It's
school level in this country. If you've got a contract with Newcastle United, if you get picked for the school team, you have to play for your school team.
You have to.
It's essentially club versus country, isn't it?
Yeah, in a
very minuscule version, yeah.
But in the States, they've had this structure, and it's a good structure. I think it's good. I like the NCAA structure because it brings up talent, and then they get picked. Like, if you're the best player, you've got the worst team to help improve them. I like that system. It wouldn't work over here because we don't have the kind of college set up to go into that type of system.
The issue with that though is when I was at the college over there, is what you're saying. You know, if you pick up an injury, if you're a basketball player or an American football player and you get injured, and you've been making that university X amount of money through full stadiums, then you do deserve to get paid. I know they get free tuition and they get other perks, like, you know, we're not going to sit here and say that they don't get additional things, probably free accommodation, all that sort of stuff, but it pales into, you know, insignificance considering, if you're an athlete playing in front of 80,000 people every week, you should be getting compensated a decent amount of money. So I think that the likelihood is going forward, the system will change because the players will fight for that change, and I think it will come. There's no way they can continue the way they are because the universities are making an absolute ton of money off the sport and they're not giving it back to the players.
Yeah, it's an interesting point of view, and we could see a similar system from the NBA because the NBA take people out of high school.
Yeah.
You can go from high school at 18 into the NBA system, go in the NBA draft and go up through there. In the NFL, you have to do 3 years playing at college, or you can't be selected in the NFL draft.
The NFL, it's such a... I mean, I know basketball's physical, but it's not to the same extent. Like, you can't have a 19-year-old go straight in and get absolutely clattered by some 30-year-old, 35-year-old veteran. It's not right.
There was one, but I think it was like £320.
Could you not, though? You know, the way that the NBA and the NHL and baseball works is they have farm teams. You know, so you would have Would that not be the better way to go? Because that means
that's what NFL Europe was. It was a chance to develop talent, albeit across the pond, mostly in Germany. We'd have the Scottish Claymores and that kind of thing. It's interesting, but again, in those sports, there's not the risk of ice hockey there is, but there's not the risk of the injuries.
Yeah, but the thing is, you can always, you know, do your ACL no matter what sport you're playing, and that's kind of the worry. I mean, if I was an NFL player, I would far rather get drafted at 18 and play for a farm team for 2 years and get paid, you know, £1 million a year if that's what it was.
But if you're so the NFL is, if you're drafting a player at 18, you're not drafting him for a farm system. You're drafting him to play day one. But the difference would be, though, if you essentially, for the players to get paid, the college system would almost have to be replaced by the farm system, which is probably not going to happen. But that's if you were a player and you were thinking about it purely from a business and financial perspective, you would far rather get brought in at 18 and let the club train you for 2 years, let you play for a small minor league team, which you would obviously have to start. I mean, obviously this would take years, a huge process to do, but I think you would far rather do that because then you get the money straight away. You know, you'd make £1 million a year, $1 million a year. Looking at you, Vince McMahon.
Yeah, the XFL. That's interesting. Are you interested in the XFL?
That's something we could talk about. We might not have time today because we've got to rattle through some predictions for Week 7 and talk about some of the key games. Starting with Thursday night thriller, the 2-4 Denver Broncos versus the 1-5 Arizona Cardinals.
Cannot wait for that one.
Who's staying up for that one?
I'm a glutton for punishment.
Case Keenum obviously has gone from the Vikings to the Broncos and has done pretty much naff all. The Broncos did give the LA Rams a good game this previous weekend, a 3-point game. They do have some talent. That's the best I can say. Some talent. The Broncos. I think the Broncos will take this one. I don't really think we should talk about this one.
I think looking at the dull faces around the studio at the moment, it's saying a fair bit.
It's a fair reflection.
So I'm going to take the Broncos. We'll go round in a clockwise formation from me.
Again, I'm going to go Broncos.
Broncos.
I think I'm going to have to follow the crowd. It'll have to be Broncos.
Broncos.
I'll pick the other one.
I will pick the other one. There's the tagline for our show.
I couldn't remember who you said.
It's Arizona Cardinals.
Oh, I love Arizona. What a place.
There we go. So I might go the other way so he can pick before us. He doesn't have a clue of what's going on. The Wembley game, the 3-3 Tennessee Titans versus the 4-2 San Diego Chargers, which I think will be a lot better than the Wembley game that we didn't mention earlier on because I was going to kind of do it in one thing, where Seattle won 72-3 against the Oakland Raiders, and that's all it really needs to be said because it was so boring.
I'm going to pick the Chargers. I think the Titans have lost the last 3, haven't they?
No.
No.
No, they beat the Eagles a couple of weeks ago.
Down.
I'm going to take the Chargers as well.
I'm saying Chargers too.
Titans have lost the last 2. Sorry.
There you go.
I'm gonna. I'll go stick up for the Titans. Surely it can't be that bad.
They gave up. They gave up 11 sacks last weekend and didn't score a point.
If they give up 11 sacks in the next game as well, then just blow the whole thing up. Start again.
There you go.
Rebranding the whole lot.
That's it.
And
just
move to LA.
Yeah.
And in the matchup of the week in this studio, the Patriots versus the Bears.
I'm absolutely terrified, to be honest. Can't see it going well at all. I hate to say it, but I'm going to have to go Patriots.
He's going against his own team, ladies and gentlemen.
I think it'll be a low score, but I'm thinking Patriots.
He's going with his own team. I am going with the Patriots because It's October. They're going to win.
I'm gonna pick the Patriots as well. I was gonna stick up for the Bears, but no. I'm gonna try my best. Is this gonna be like scored next week? You're gonna unveil who was right and wrong.
Yeah, and you're going to be wrong.
Yeah, I know. I hope that I'm right, and then I'll just prove that I should be the one hosting.
And then we'll put you in the hostess chair and see how that happens. Anyway, the Bills versus the Colts in another thriller.
Well, considering that, was it Josh Allen's injured now, and they're going to be starting with Nathan Peterman.
Nathan Peterman, who throws an interception on 10%.
Whoever the other team is.
10% of his passes are intercepted by the other team.
Bills are going to
But
lose
90% are successful. So
No, most of them go in the ground. That's just the ones that go to the other team.
oh, these two teams suck.
This is the expert analysis you get on the Pick Six podcast.
They do. It's only 3 wins between them.
Dear.
I'll pick the Colts. Why not?
There we go. Why not?
Why not?
Why not? I am taking the Colts as well. I've already said that.
It's copycat. So my expert analysis.
Did I get everyone there? Has everyone gone Colts?
Yeah.
Everyone has gone Colts. The Texans versus the Jaguars in a big game at the top of the AFC South. Jacksonville got battered by Dallas. Houston lost a close one at the weekend.
I still reckon the
Won a
Jags.
close one.
No, they won. They've won the last 3.
Won a close one.
I've got the table up there.
So went 0-3 and now 3-0.
I'll pick Houston.
Silence.
I think I'm going with Houston. I think Sean Watson's warming up. I think he's going to be better.
I'm going to go against the crowd and say Jags win.
Jags win.
What an idiot.
There we go. I'm going to go with the Texans. Detroit Lions versus the Miami Dolphins with Ryan Tannehill. Might be back. Might not be. Brock Osweiler might be throwing for another 380 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Don't say that. Don't say that. I think if Tannehill's back, I can't see anything other than the Dolphins win.
If Tannehill's back, Dolphins will win. But that's purely...
There's no ifs in predictions.
Okay, go Dolphins then.
Connor? Do these two teams suck?
Dolphins.
I am going against the crowd. I'm going to take the Lions in that one.
If it was an actual fight between Dolphins and Lions, I would fancy Lion to win.
In water?
No, above water.
Well, how are you getting the Dolphin out? What, he'd be dead already?
I'm just saying. Well, we'll have 2. We'll have a
home and away.
Yeah, home and away game. I still think the Lion would do well.
I feel like this should be a weekly feature. Just the mascot.
Yeah, I think it should be like, who would win between a cowboy and an eagle?
Eagle.
Would it? Cowboy's got a gun.
Eagle.
Fair
Because
play.
an eagle always beats a cowboy.
A Viking and a bear.
Oh, bear, definitely.
I'd pay to see that, actually, to be honest.
I think we've got.
You're wasting a season's worth of.
Do you know what? Right, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to pick it on what I believe who would actually win in a fight between the teams. So there we are. That's what I'm doing.
If that beats us, we're going to stop this podcast after 1 week. Vikings versus Jets.
Ooh, that's a tough one. You see, because a jet would obviously be very fast.
Unless it's Jet from Gladiator.
Ooh.
I hadn't even thought that.
There you go.
I'll pick the Jets. I'll have to pick the Jets.
So you think Jet from Gladiators would beat a Viking? Fair enough.
Yeah.
So Connor?
I'm going Vikings.
Same with me. I'm going Vikings.
I'm going Vikings as well because I'm going on football. So there you go. Carolina Panthers versus the Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh, a panther versus an eagle. Well, cats eat birds, don't they? So
Cats eat birds, so he's gone with the Panthers.
I'm loving the logic.
This is a top level analysis. This.
You don't get this in any other podcast in the UK.
Next week I'll just come down for this section. Just text us when you get this. I'll just come down and do this.
We will. I like it. I like this. I think this is a good section.
I think the Eagles. I think the Eagles will beat Panthers.
Yeah, same.
I don't want to pick because it's my team, but I'm going to pick the Eagles because we should win. We should win that one. We're at home.
I feel like I'm the only one who's going to go against their own team this week. Yeah.
So who'd win in a fight between the Browns and the Buccaneers?
Oh, wow.
So you've got a Buccaneer. What is a brown? The colour brown.
The colour brown. Well, I suppose automatically the Browns suck and always have, so therefore that explains it because they don't have like a thing. Like, what is a brown? So Buccaneers win.
Buccaneers win.
The Browns will never win.
They've won 2 games.
I know, but they'll never win on my predictions.
There you go, Browns fans. Thanks for tuning in.
See you later.
I'm picking the Browns.
I think the Bucks are going to win.
No, after seeing Jameis Winston last week, I'm going to go Browns.
So I think that's the first one we've actually both split. We've gone 2-2 on that one. The New Orleans Saints versus the Ravens in what is going to be a good game. Actually, it's 4-1 versus 4-2.
Saint plays a Raven. I think a Raven would win. I mean, a Saint's not likely to do much damage, are they?
Well, it depends if Santa's been drinking and on his. He could get his reindeer.
He could drop presents off.
Yeah,
for the Ravens
onto a Raven. He could. His sleigh could hit loads of Ravens on the way around.
Nah, I'm picking the Ravens.
Right, fair enough.
Picking the Ravens.
Yeah, it's a Ravens win for me.
I thought the Saints were actually good. 4-1.
That's what I'm thinking. Saints,
I'm going Saints as well. So we're split again on that one. Cowboys versus Redskins and.
Oh, that's an interesting one. Cowboys against the Redskins. That's many a year's battle.
Be careful on this one because.
Yeah, Cowboys have got guns, so.
Cowboys got guns, so that's.
Cowboys win.
Cowboys win. I'm going to take the Redskins because I don't want the Cowboys to win.
I'm going to take the Redskins.
I'm going Cowboys, I think.
Another split on that one.
Hell yeah.
Rams versus 49ers. I'll just put everyone's.
It's a 49er. It's difficult.
I'm just going to put everyone else's predictions in. I don't need to ask you, or do I?
No,
well, the Rams would win because what is a 49er? When the 49er plays the Browns, I don't know. That's not really going to work, is it? Yeah, it's going to have to be the Rams.
There you go. Bengals versus Chiefs.
Chiefs.
What's a Bengal?
The Tiger.
Oh, it's a tiger. Oh, the Bengals will
What's
win.
a Bengal? There we go. That's another one. We're just going to clip these parts, and that's going to be the podcast.
Well, they should be called the Bengal Tigers, not the Bengals.
You can petition them.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's a false name, false advertising.
Get a whole City Tiger sort of thing going.
Yeah, could do. Yeah.
We all going Chiefs.
Yeah.
No, because I'm going Bengals.
Idiot. Anyway, Giants versus Falcons.
Ooh, well, a Giant would be able to pick a Falcon out from the air, wouldn't they? So you'd probably have to pick the Giants. I'm going against my own team here.
Oh, it's got to be the Falcons.
It's going to be the Falcons.
Yeah, Falcons.
And that is it for our first weekly Pick 6 podcast. We're going to go a little bit of any other business. We're reaching the hour mark, so we'll go around the room. Any other business you want to talk about anything? Anyone?
No.
Okay, I'll throw one thing out there. Right, would you be in favour of a British NFL franchise since they're playing at Wembley at the moment?
That's not. I've already done that.
No, you wouldn't. You didn't really ask the question if you'd be in favour. You said
the
you
question
would
was,
support
would
them.
you support one? Yeah.
Would you be in favour of it happening? Is what I'm saying.
No.
I
think it's closer that.
I think it's going to happen.
That's the
I don't know. I think if Shahid Khan buys Wembley Stadium like he's
that's
trying
gonna be
to,
a
I
big
think
step.
that's going to be the avenue towards. I don't know if the Jacksonville Jaguars would ever move across, considering everyone perceives them to be London's team currently, at least anyway.
I don't think there should be one, but there is going to be one.
I think for the sake of the players, because if they're going to have to go stateside and then come back,
You've got to really rethink about how the
it's
draft
a whole
process
logistical
works. Yeah.
nightmare.
For me, the schedule, it'd have to be you either play 8 games at the start of the season in the US, then come over for a 2-month spell and play 8 games over here, or you play 4 months in the US, you 8 games straight with a bye week in between in London, and then you play 4 weeks at the end. That's the only way you could do it for me.
No,
Plus the advantage of you being in London against the away team is huge.
see, I would have thought they would have based the team somewhere on the East Coast, probably in Florida because of the weather, and they would just fly over for the home games. Then they would just act as a team that's essentially based in Florida and fly over.
That would pretty much be like a homeless team, wouldn't it? I think.
Yeah. That's another way you could tackle the problem. For me, it's going to happen because the NFL want it to happen and Roger Goodell wants it to happen, but it shouldn't. And that's speaking from a British fan who loves we all love the game. That's why we watch it and we're doing this podcast. But for me, it wouldn't garner the support they would be hoping. I'd probably support them as my second team. I'd probably go. Well,
I think the fact
like
that these
London.
Wembley games sell out is because people support a lot of these NFL teams. I think if London had a franchise, I think You wouldn't. I think maybe out of novelty, the first 1 or 2 games would be a sellout, and then after that, it would.
I feel like it'd be very, very much like a Rams coming back to LA sort of feel about the place.
I think it'd sell out just because I've seen the uproar on ticket sales for these games, so there would always be people interested.
If there's only 3 or 4 a year, then it's still a novelty. If there's 8 a year, then it's not. Wouldn't be the same.
It's not that many games though.
It wouldn't be that. Not for because you get the season ticket holders. You probably get people who are in around London. You get say 20,000 season ticket holders.
You get far more 20,000 season ticket holders.
I don't think you would.
You totally would.
But then another thing that people haven't thought about is what if they reach the playoffs? How would you then go 1 week?
Yeah, but that's no different to a team on the East Coast playing a team on the West Coast.
Well, you could put it like this: the British Rugby League system has the Toronto Wolfpack in it.
It's true, but that is again a flawed system.
It is. It's a flawed system. It'll need a lot of work, and I'm not quite sure it will work. It's coming. We're going to see it,
whether we like it or not.
Yeah, exactly. Anyone else got some business they would like to attend to? It doesn't have to be about the NFL. It could be about sport in general or life in general.
I think NBA started last night, didn't it?
Yeah.
We're recording on the Wednesday afternoon.
Yeah.
So last night, 2 games.
No, I thought it started tonight.
No, Golden State and Boston won last night.
Boston beat Philadelphia.
Yeah. Philadelphia
Golden
lost.
State won. What a shock!
There you go.
God, who saw that coming?
That started. I'll be following the Sixers again. Then probably not going to be as good as last year, but probably going to get the
Sixers though, didn't they tank beyond tank? Like they were
they gave up for 3 seasons.
Yeah. It was the process. You had to trust the process, and it's coming to fruition now because they've got Joel Embiid, who is probably top 3 centre in the league because he can shoot 3-pointers, he can battle inside, and they've got a point guard from Australia called Ben Simmons who is going to be a star. He's going to be an absolute star. They've got Mark Elfult, who they drafted early on the year after Simmons, and he's had trouble with his mechanics on shooting, but he's a great dribbler and a great creator alongside Simmons. So the Sixers have got a good setup.
I think now that LeBron James is in the West with the Lakers,
I reckon that West playoff race is going to be incredible to watch.
Well, whoever wins the West is going to win the championship easily. The East is so bereft of talent.
Didn't Toronto win the East last year?
Yes.
Yeah.
And who knew they had a team?
No, they've just got a big player, haven't they? Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah,
him.
God, this is me reading Sportsnet every day, just remembering.
And then Connor will throw NHL here because that's doing
stuff. that's the one
like
that I should
NHL?
watch. Yeah, we're into the. I think everyone's played about 6-7 games now.
Who's winning?
Currently, Toronto.
Who knew they had a team? Oh, of course, they're Canada. I was
going to say that's like the most famous.
The Maple Leaf.
Yeah, Maple Leafs are doing well. New Jersey are doing really well.
We can always do quizzes from you. You could just pick a sport every week and come down and
we'll give you a quiz on each.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's entertaining. High scoring this year, which is always nice to see.
There you go.
So yeah, what's up?
I'm guessing we are done with the first Pick Sick podcast. Pick Sick podcast. Pick Sick would be a good podcast. Yeah.
Pick Sick. No, I don't think it would.
Pick Sick.
You've done well not swearing as well.
It'd be odd content, that Pick Sick, wouldn't it?
Pick Sick.
Yeah.
That's going to be our hashtag.
It can be PG as well, because last week we had somebody record a podcast and they swore all the way through, and I was like, well, I can't put that online.
What am I supposed to do with this?
Yeah, I was like, I can't.
Well, there's still time. Well, actually, no, we should probably wrap it up. Thanks for tuning in to the Pick 6 podcast in association with Sportsbyte here at Sunderland University. If you want to get in touch, we are at Pick 6 Pod on Twitter, and we'll start updating that because we started it last week, and we'll be on there if you want to ask some questions and all that, and this will be available in the coming days on certain media platforms. So, goodbye from me.
Goodbye.
Farewell.
Yeah, see you next week.
We will see you next week. Thank you, and goodbye.